Welcome to Heavy Storytelling. How are you doing today? We are going to be reading a story, but first up, we're not reading a story. Oh, it's different?
It's different!
So today we are going to be reading 3 different Bible passages. First up, we are going four different Bible passages. Are you doing 2?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we are going to start it off with Kim, and she is going to not be doing the synopsis today. She's going to be reading a Bible passage. Then when we're done doing that Bible passage, we are going to be doing
another Bible passage.
Yay! Which is going to be Daniel.
No, me.
Dad.
Oh, then Dad, who will be doing 2. Then we are going to be doing Daniel today, and he's not going to be doing the joke of the day today. Which I know you guys, which you guys miss, I bet. But I hope you guys really enjoy. Hi, Mom. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell to never miss another video. I'll hand it off to my sister.
So I'm going to be reading Matthew 12, verse 38 through 42. And
Tell what version of the Bible it is.
I have the English Standard Version, I think. Yeah. And verse 38 through 42.
What chapter?
12.
Then some of the scribes and Pharisees answered him, saying, Teacher, we wish to see a sign from you. But he answered them, An evil and adulterous generation seeks for a sign, but no sign will be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. For just as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the great fish, so will the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. The men of Nineveh will rise up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it, for they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and behold, something greater than Jonah is here. The queen of the south will rise up at the judgment with this generation and condemn it, for she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and behold, something greater than Solomon is here. And that is the verses that I'm reading today.
Hi. Yay! Alright, so the next passage, I've got one from Colossians and I've got one from Exodus. So I'm going to do the one from Exodus first, and I'm going to do the one from Colossians after Daniel reads. But it's okay, it won't be that weird. So Exodus is, and then Daniel is going to read. I gave them the option of Old Testament versus New Testament, and they both mutually agreed, Daniel to read the Old Testament and Kimberly to read the New Testament. And so Daniel's passage comes from the book of Leviticus, which is a forgotten book. Not that it's forgotten, but that we don't read it as often as maybe we should. And there's some really great wealth in there of information that we can glean from. So my passage is the longest one, big surprise. And this is going to be Exodus chapter 12, most of the chapter. I'm going to start with verse 1, and I'm going to continue through verse 28. So this is, of course, the English Standard Version, because that's what I use, and Exodus chapter 12. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, This month shall be for you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year for you. Tell all the congregation of Israel, that on the 10th day of this month every man shall take a lamb according to their father's houses, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for a lamb, then he and his nearest neighbor shall take according to the number of persons, according to what each can eat. You shall make your count for the lamb. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male a year old. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of this month, when the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill their lambs at twilight. Then they shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and the lintel of the houses in which they eat it. They shall eat the flesh that night, roasted on the fire, with unleavened bread and bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled in water, but roasted, its head with its legs and its inner parts. And you shall let none of it remain until the morning. Anything that remains until the morning you shall burn. In this manner you shall eat it, with your belt fastened, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. For I will pass through the land of Egypt that night, and I will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and on all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgments. I am the Lord. The blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are. And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and no plague will befall you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day shall be for you a memorial day, and you shall keep it as a feast to the Lord throughout your generations, as a statute forever. Sorry, I thought it was statue for a second, but there is a T. So statute forever, you shall keep it as a feast. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall remove leaven out of your houses. For if anyone eats what is leavened from the first day until the 7th, that person shall be cut off from Israel. On the first day you shall hold a holy assembly, and on the 7th day a holy assembly. No work shall be done on those days, but what everyone needs to eat, that alone may be prepared by you, and you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. For on this very day I brought your hosts out of the land of Egypt. Therefore you shall observe this day throughout your generations as a statute forever. In the first month, from the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. For 7 days no leaven is to be found in your houses. If anyone eats what is leavened, that person will be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he is a sojourner or a native of the land. You shall eat nothing leavened. In all your dwelling places you shall eat unleavened bread. Then Moses called all the elders of Israel and said to them, Go and select lambs for yourselves according to your clans, and kill the Passover lamb. Take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and touch the lintel and the 2 doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. None of you shall go out of the door of his house until the morning, for the Lord will pass through to strike the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the 2 doorposts, the Lord will pass over the door and will not allow the destroyer to enter your houses to strike you. You shall observe this rite as a statute for you and for your sons forever. And when you come to the land that the Lord will give you, as he has promised, you shall keep this service. And when your children say to you, What do you mean by this service? You shall say, It is the sacrifice of the Lord's Passover, for he passed over the houses of the people of Israel in Egypt when he struck the Egyptians but spared our houses. And the people bowed their heads and worshipped. Then the people of Israel went and did so as the Lord had commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. That is the end of my passage. I want to just point out really quickly that this is the 14th day of the month. It's the first month, and God defines it as the first month because of the month that they're in. Also, in the most ancient calendars, it's not really necessarily a Hebrew thing. In most ancient calendars, they had lunar calendars rather than solar calendars. I know we're very much used to the solar calendar in our modern society, but in the ancient societies, they used lunar calendars. The Egyptians, for example, had a 30-day calendar, and they also had a 365-day calendar. So they meshed those together with 5 festival days, which was its own 13th month, but that's a long story. And at this time, we're going to read something very special. I have no idea what you just did that for. At this time, we're going to read something special regarding this Passover festival, which was a statute. What does it say? A statute forever. So, says it 2 or 3 times, a statute forever. Here is Daniel to read about the Passover festival.
Okay, so Feast of the Lord. Leviticus.
Read nice and loud so we can...
Okay.
Tell us what you're reading.
Yeah, tell us what you're reading first.
Leviticus 23, 1 through 2, and then 4 through 8, which seems like a lot, but it's really not.
Huh?
Poet,
Your
I'm-
poet
You're
and
doing
uh,
4 through 8? Leviticus what?
Leviticus
23, 1 through 2, and 4 through 8.
1 through 8, he's skipping 3. You can read 3. It's okay.
The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the people of Israel, and say to them, These are the appointed feasts of the Lord, that you shall proclaim as holy convocations. They are my appointed feasts. These are the appointed feasts of the Lord, the holy convocations, which you shall proclaim at the time appointed for them, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month at twilight, is the Lord's Passover. And on the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread to the Lord. For 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. On the first day you shall have a holy convocation. Yeah, I said it right. You shall not do any ordinary work, but you shall present a food offering to the Lord for 7 days. On the 7th day is a holy convocation. You shall not do any ordinary work.
Okay, so at this point, what I wonder if we'll be celebrating the Passover in the Millennial Kingdom. Okay, so at this point, what I want to point out from what Daniel just read, Granny Bear says, Hi, Daniel. Hi, Kimmy. Hi, JJ. Looking good. From what Daniel just said, I want to point out that in the first month, we already decided what the first month is because God said what it was based on when the Passover actually happened. The first month, on the 14th day, that is right in keeping with the Exodus account, at twilight is the Lord's Passover, and on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And that, on the first day of that feast, there is a holy convocation, and on the 7th day of that feast, there is a holy convocation. So these are additional Sabbaths that are added into the week, in addition to the 7th day Sabbath that the Israelites already celebrated, which guess what? That's what verse 3 is about that I had Daniel skip. 6 days shall work be done, but on the 7th day is a Sabbath. That's already included in the 10 Commandments. Nobody really reads Leviticus. I don't mean to say nobody, but it is a skipped book a lot of times, mostly because it's really tedious and long to read, as Daniel said. Also because a lot of it doesn't seem like it applies to us in our modern society, so we just kind of skip it. So I want to read one more passage, and then I'm going to read the last page of this book. and then I'm going to open it up for you guys to make all kinds of comments and whatever you want to say. All right, so this is from the book of Colossians, chapter 2, verses 16 through, I'll just go ahead and finish the chapter, which is 23. So,
What is it? I'm sorry.
Colossians, 1 L, 2 S's, Colossians chapter 2, verses 16 through, I'm going to go ahead and finish the chapter, which is 23. Therefore, let no one pass judgment on you in questions of food and drink, or with regard to a festival, or a new moon, or a Sabbath. These are a shadow of the things to come, but the substance belongs to Christ. Let no one disqualify you, insisting on asceticism and worship of angels, going on in detail about visions, puffed up without reason by his sensual mind, and not holding fast to the head, that's Jesus, from whom the whole body, nourished and knit together through its joints and ligaments, grows with a growth that is from God. If with Christ you died to the elemental spirits of the world, why, as if you were still alive in the world, do you submit to regulations? Do not handle, do not taste, do not touch, referring to things that all perish as they are used, according to human precepts and teaching. These have indeed an appearance of wisdom in promoting self-made religion and asceticism, say that 5 times fast, and severity, don't really say it 5 times fast. Golly. These have indeed an appearance of wisdom in promoting self-made religion and asceticism and severity to the body, but they are of no value in stopping the indulgence of the flesh. So, with all of that being said, why on earth do we study the festivals? Well, I have a very good reason why we study the festivals, and I think that it has to do with 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15, I think it is, which has become like my new mantra verse. And that says, but in your hearts, is that the right one? Yes. But in your hearts honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you, yet do it with gentleness and respect. And I just have to say that our modern society in 2021 is more eager than ever to do everything they can do to discredit the Bible. They come up with new fictitious inventions of science and historical data that is incorrect, and they pass it off as truth even though it is fantasy, and they use that supposed truth to try to disprove the Bible. And honestly, they have to come up with lies in order to do it. One of the many things that they do is attack the time that Jesus spent in the tomb. And they say, just like Kimberly read, Jesus said he would be in the tomb for 3 days and 3 nights. But then they look at Good Friday, and they say, look, he was only in for 1 day and 2 nights. So there is a disjunction in the popular account of Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection. So I'm going to read the last page of this book. It's called, On What Day Was Christ Crucified? We believe, I'm sorry, I have to say one more thing. I grew up my entire life believing that Good Friday was on Friday. And I am not trying to dissuade anybody. That's the reason why I read that Colossians chapter. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from believing what you believe. But what I'm saying is that I think that this is a better way to always be prepared to give a defense for the faith. Because if people come and say, well, how do you explain this? I have to say, well, I don't believe that Jesus was killed on a Friday. And that's how I can support the way that they try to attack the Christian faith in this way. Once I was introduced to this principle of Jesus Christ being killed on a Wednesday instead of a Friday, I can't read the scriptures, and even some of the times when I've read the scriptures, I've pointed out some of the little nuances where it says in, I can't remember which gospel, where it says that after the Sabbath they went to go buy spices, and then on Sunday they went to go apply the spices. And there was obviously a disconnect. It couldn't have happened the way that in the timeline of the church, the church's timeline that they've given to it. That was all, by the way, the dating of Easter was decided at the Council of Nicaea in 325. So if you're interested in that, which it was intentionally taken away from Passover, it no longer. That's the reason why Easter and Passover aren't at the same time, is because they wanted it to be a Christian holiday instead of a Jewish holiday. So anyway, I'm sorry, I rambled too much, but here we are. I'm going to read this. This is, by the way, the name of this book is A Harmony of the Gospels by Loraine Boettner. Loraine Boettner was a Presbyterian minister in the middle 20th century. He lived in Missouri. He went to, I can't remember what, I think he went to Princeton. So anyway, he's not like just a nobody. He was actually a minister. He was a Presbyterian. All right. On what day was Christ crucified? We believe that the scriptures teach that Christ was crucified on Wednesday rather than Friday, as is generally supposed. The Sabbath following the day on which he was crucified was not the regular Sabbath, for John tells us the day of that Sabbath was a high day. That's from John chapter 19:31. You can look that up in a little bit if you want to. That is a special Sabbath or holy day on which no work could be done, just like what Daniel read earlier from the book of Leviticus. The root meaning of the word Sabbath is rest, cease, interrupt. The first day of Passover week was a Sabbath, regardless of what day of the week it fell on. In the instructions given to Moses for the observance of the Passover, we read, 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread, and in the first day there shall be to you a holy convocation, and in the 7th day a holy convocation. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat, that only may be done by you. Exodus 12:15 and 16, which was from the passage that I read earlier. Hence, in that 7-day week, there were 2 Sabbaths. Likewise, the Day of Atonement, which would fall on the 10th day of the 7th month, was a Sabbath on which no work could be done, regardless of what day of the week that was. That's from Leviticus chapter 16, verses 29 through 31, which we did not read. In Matthew chapter 12, verse 40, which Kimberly read, we have the words of Christ, for as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the whale, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. Mark 8:31 says, and he began to teach them that the Son of Man must be killed and after 3 days rise again. Matthew 26:61, after 3 days I will rise again. John 2:10, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. Matthew 26:61, witnesses at Christ's trial. This man said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and to build it in 3 days. Matthew 27:62, the chief priests and Pharisees to Pilate. We remember that the deceiver said, while he was yet alive, after 3 days I will rise again. Luke 24:31, the men on the way to Emmaus. Besides this, it is now the 3rd day since these things came to pass. Thus the testimony is so clear and emphatic and repeated that it is hard to see how it can mean anything other than that Christ was in the grave 3 24-hour days and nights, which means that he arose at the end of the Jewish Sabbath, that is, after sunset on Saturday evening. The Jewish New Day began at sundown rather than at midnight as we count time. If Christ was crucified on Friday, the traditional date, and was buried shortly before sundown that evening and arose on Sunday morning, he would have been in the grave only a small part of the day Friday, all of Friday night, all of Saturday, the Jewish Sabbath, and a small part of Sunday, the first part of the first day of the week. That at most would have been but one full day, small parts of 2 other days and 2 nights, about 36 hours, but that does not satisfy the scripture requirements. Christ himself said that he would be in the grave 3 days and 3 nights. That's from the passage that Kimberly read to us. And she didn't say it. Well, she did because she read it. He even said, it's not in here, as the sign of Jonah. And Jonah was in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. And Jesus was in the grave for 3 days and 3 nights. Christ himself said that he would be in the grave, I already read that, grave 3 days and 3 nights. And you cannot get 3 days and 3 nights between sundown Friday evening and dawn Sunday morning. If, however, Christ was crucified on Wednesday, then according to our calendar, he would have been placed in the tomb shortly before sundown that evening, would have been in the grave all of Thursday and Friday, and on Saturday, the Jewish Sabbath, at least until after sundown. And he would have risen sometime between dusk Saturday evening and dawn Sunday morning, when the women who went to the tomb found it empty. Only this reckoning fulfills the scriptural requirements that he was in the grave 3 days and 3 nights. So, I'm interested in your comments. Like I said from the book of, from my passage in Colossians, I do not want to try to dissuade anybody from anything that they hard fast believe, but I do want you to search the scriptures for yourself and try to make a solid biblical understanding of what the scripture actually says. We don't have to rely on the church's tradition. We can read the Bible for ourselves. We have tons of different translations. We have original Greek versions of the Bible that have been published for us, and there's even classes where you can learn biblical Greek if you're interested in doing so. One other thing that I want to make an announcement before I go. So I've actually been thinking about doing this for quite some time now. This book, Loraine Boettner, Boettner, Loraine Boettner, it's called A Harmony of the Gospels. And so what this book does is it goes through the Gospels and it tries to put it in chronological order. And it, instead of reading all of Matthew and all of Mark and all of Luke and all of John, it puts all of them together into one story. And I think that it's a really clever book. I used it when on a couple of papers that I was doing. Actually, it really helped me to be able to see the events happen in real time and be able to compare, especially the synoptic accounts of the of Jesus' life on earth. So, what I'm going to do is, beginning on Easter, I'm going to have a separate live stream in which I'm going to read this book one section at a time. And there are tons and tons of sections of this. There's a total of 136 sections. And even those sections, some of them are divided up. So it's probably going to be somewhere between 150 and 160 different live streams that I'm planning to do. It's probably going to go from Easter until maybe Christmas. I don't know. But I'm going to start on Easter, or Resurrection Day, as we like to call it in our family. And then we're going to just keep going. I'm going to do this during the time that the kids are normally settling. So if there's nobody watching the live stream, that's okay. I'm going to post it on my Alpha and Omega channel that I have on YouTube. So, and so you can watch it there and post all kinds of comments that you want to about the scripture that I'm reading. Also, this is from the American Standard Version of 1901. Like I said, he lived in the middle part of the 20th century. He died in 1990, and this book was first published in 1933. So, did you have a question, or are you just stroking the cat? All right, we do have a question over there.
I want you to point out why it's important to recognize the festivals and the high holy days and the reason why we're not celebrating Friday, Sunday, because a lot of people can't wrap their brain around it.
Well, a lot of people can't wrap their brain around it because they've been fed this lie for their entire lives. Well, I don't want to call it a lie, but they've been fed misinformation that's based on tradition for their entire lives. And the story of Good Friday just doesn't meet the scriptural understanding of what it says. And I mean, honestly, I think the biggest reason is the from 1 Peter 3:15 is to be prepared to give a defense, because people are attacking the Bible right now. People that you come across at work or at school or wherever you are, people that have public platforms where they can say things, they are attacking the Bible right now. And it's important that we know within ourselves what the truth is, and then also that we can articulate that truth to other people. That to me is the biggest reason. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and close the live stream right now, and go ahead and continue to post comments. And God bless you, and have a good night.